Hello, my fellow bookish people. Today I come to you with the page 112 tag, which originates with Shawn the Book Maniac. I'll put a link down below to the many examples of his version of this tag. The idea is to take a book. Ideally, it's supposed to be a book you don't know anything about, and flip it open to page 112 and read that out and talk about it and sort of assess the quality of the book based on page 112, going from the idea that by page 112, all the editors, all the helpers, the author themselves have relaxed, and basically what you're going to get on page 112 is actually going to be, this is what the author is actually like. They've ceased being on their best behavior. They've ceased trying so hard. There's maybe a little less, that kind of like thing. This is going to be how the book actually is. And indeed, I think Shawn got the idea for the tag from a French prize, which indeed judges books on that page, on page 112 solely, or do they start off by page 112 and go along? You'll have to refer to Shawn for all that fount of information. Well, what I have decided to do today is, because the wondrous Jaja, my lovely princess, picked up books from the library for me, and as she picked up Coriolanus, the DVD, and Women of Will, which were all books that I was expecting. However, also what came home was this, Stephen Price's novel, Lampedusa, which I wasn't expecting, and at the moment I am a lonely shut-in reading Shakespeare all the time, which is why I'm outdoors, to prove that I'm not actually a lonely shut-in who only reads Shakespeare all the time. I'm sometimes a lonely shut-in who comes outside and rants about the library system and how all the books always all come in at the same time, and isn't that I love the library system. I love books. This wondrous system of lending books out for free to the citizens, and hopefully enriching them and making them maybe perhaps better citizens, I think is one of those ideals that comes. But when it rains, it always pours, and all the books always come in. And I'm going to have to return Lampedusa to the library. But I thought, oh, well, here's a chance for me to I'll do something with it before I return it. And I'll do something that'll make me go, oh, do I want to actually get the book out again? Because now that I've had it out once, there's always that thing of, no matter how good the book is, it's like, oh, I already had it out, and then I had to return it. Now I'm going to kind of get it again. It's like, will I do that? Maybe one way to do that is to actually read page 112 and see how I feel about the book. Now, that said, this is not blind by any means, because the Lampedusa that Stephen Price is referring to here in this historical novel is, as he says on the back, Giuseppe Tomasi was the last prince of the island of Lampedusa, as well as the author of one novel, The Leopard. Considered a masterpiece, it obsessed Tomasi in the last years of his life, though he didn't survive to see it published. And so this novel is about the creation of that singular novel, and though Price's tightly focused lens it stands like a shadow behind everything Tomasi's own life, everything of Tomasi's own life. So yeah, it'll go into all that stuff. This, if I actually can get off my ass at some point, I will actually release my review of The Leopard by Tomasi de Lampedus, Giuseppe Tomasi de Lampedus. I picked up on my trip, my lovely, wonderful, amazing trip to Italy. It was one of 2 books that I actually bought on that trip. And I love this book, and I will hopefully, there'll be a link down below to the review I've posted of it, because I reviewed this a while ago, but I've just left it sitting on my computer for whatever reason. But it's an amazing novel. And when I came back and I found, I think heard it from Steve Donahue's channel that someone had written a novel on the writing of The Leopard. And to make it even more funny, is that this Stephen Price, author of 2 novels, By Gaslight, long listed for the Scotiabank GILLER Prize, and Into That Darkness, he lives in Victoria, BC, which is where I'm coming to you from. And if to make it even more close to me, just because I looked at the beginning, I'm really breaking all the rules of the page 112 tag. But at the front of this book, it has a dedication, and the dedication is for Lorna Crozier. and in memory of Patrick Lane, who, if you are a viewer of my channel, you will know I did a kind of a tribute video to Patrick Lane a little while ago, and it's probably one of the videos I'm proudest of talking about what kind of an influence he had on my life. I only knew him for a very, very short time as a creative writing teacher. He was the lucky guy who pulled the straw to teach first year creative writing students at UVic about poetry, and it was the first poet that I know of that I met, and Lorna Crozier is his partner. So a lot of ties there, a lot of things there. So that brings me around to, let's read page 112 together and see how I feel about it now that I'm all weepy and everything. Now, there is developed some schisms in the page 112, in the page 112 tag thing. I noticed that Steve Donahue further elaborates on this, saying, well, I'm not going to just start on page 112. I'm going to go back a little bit if it kind of makes the scene complete, you know, and all that stuff, so we get a true hunk, for a kind of trespassing on the whole page 112. Ugh, very strict French, you know, French rules. I'm just going to go with page 112 because I haven't prepared it all. So I'll stick with the true spirit. I'll put myself forward as not a lazy man, but a man who honors the rules. Yes, even though I've broken all the other rules. So here is page 112 of Lampedusa by Stephen Price. There used to be names chiseled into the rock face here, said Ferrari. The names of those trapped in the castle, but they're gone now. After lunch, in the baking heat, they lay languid and half sleeping, and later Ferry walked to them some way through the yellow grass to a stony trail above a defile. They continued to climb. They passed a collapsed wall and came to another ruin, the remains of several buildings close together. Giuseppe stared at the three highest walls that stood yet, the roof gone, charred timbers rotting slowly in the grass, green lizards flickering away in the sunlight. What is this place? Asked his mother, picking her way through the white flowers. A priory, smiled Ferrari. Ferry. F-E-R-R-I. Ferry? It burned to the ground 20 years ago. It is said this is where the miracle happened. Others say it was witchcraft. I come here sometimes because no one else does. It is very quiet here, said Giuseppe. She was called Cleo of Carcassonne, said Ferry, a saint to some. His mother shook her head slowly. The girl who suffered the stigma? You have heard of her. She shrugged. It was talked about in sermons at the time. We were warned against. What was the phrase? She turned her wrists as if to reveal her empty hands. Oh, inappropriate enthusiasms. The church does not like holiness. The church does not like holinessness that is not responsible for. Giuseppe felt the slow heat on his face and ran his sleeve over his forehead. It came away damp. High up in the currents, he saw a hawk turning and wheeling, unsteady in the sunlight. Okay, and I cheated. I went just slightly into page 113 there, but so yeah, that's the first chapter. First thing I should say for people who aren't looking over my shoulder while I'm reading this, is that there's dialogue here, but there are no quotation marks to indicate dialogue, and I know that's a real deal breaker for some. I was actually interesting as I read it. It all seemed to come out fairly clearly. What was dialogue, what wasn't. There's even just like a single unattributed line here of "you have heard of her," which I can see. If you had quotations around it, you would know that it would be an exchange between Ferry and his mother, who is Lampedusa's mother, I believe. It's definitely got that kind of with a novel that is going so much on the Leopard. The Leopard is written in very lush, descriptive language, and this does seem to have that kind of sense, and you're going to get the feel of the heat, and there's the what was that thing? There's the flickering tongues of the lizards. Oh, I'm losing my library bookmark there. Where was it? Yeah, it's got the heat of the defile, they lay languid and half asleep. And later, Fairy walked some way through the yellow grass to the stony trail above the defile. It's like it's got that, the yellow grass, everything's baked and it's super hot. And there's the charred timbers rotting slowly in the grass, green lizards flickering away in the sunlight. And the green lizards, like, are they flickering away as in they're zipping away, or they're just like little flashes? I guess it's not their tongues, it's more their whole bodies. So yeah, I think that gives me a start. It's going to be that kind of a this is very much kind of it's the death of the kind of an old aristocratic kind of rich noble life for kind of the more messiness of a modern new Italian state. This is set in 1860. This one, Lampedusa finished his novel, or was, I think it's like 1957. He was shopping it around. It got rejected by like a couple of the major Italian houses. It did get accepted, but it only got published after his death, and went on to become Leopard went on to become like a big bestseller. Also won the big Italian literary prize, and is considered at this point by many people as, when ignorant people go along and say, what should I read Italian stuff of? This is one of the books that comes up as one of the great examples of Italian literature. And I can totally see that from having read it. It is a small, incredibly dense book that has a lot to say about like Italian history. And okay, I'm not reviewing this, but I will put my review down below, because I cannot say enough good things about the Leopard. And yeah, I think as a start, it's like, it was kind of the stillness of the heat, the thing. There's the not on, I know I'm getting, must be a literary novel because they're not using quotation marks around their dialogue, but he seemed to be apt well at doing that. God, it's a terrible thing about, you live somewhere like Victoria, BC. You just hope you're not going to run into authors whose books you've read. I find that very awkward. I subscribe to the death of the author theory, just for my own self-preservation, or my own weak will and general cowardliness, God, holinessness. And cowardliness. Oh, I'm getting my terrible words here today. All right. Well, so yeah, I think I'm going to take it back to the library, so someone who actually has the time can read it. I'm going to do that right now. I'll be a good library user. I'm getting my little Steve Donahue halo here, though I don't think that means Saint Steve has blessed me or anything. I'll thank you for the recommendation, Steve, and I will get to it at a quieter time of this year or next year. We shall see. Hopefully I'll put myself, maybe I'll wait a little bit and then I'll put myself back on the list. All right. Thank you, Shawn, for this lovely tag. It's a great way of dipping into a book and deciding, oh, do I want to read it or not? And I think the answer is yes for me. So, all right. More videos later.